You have team members on your team who are all contributing in some way based on their role and their mission and their purpose. That's for the higher purpose of the organization. They're contributing a piece to that value proposition that you have internally. We need to celebrate their wins too. We need to celebrate. And here's the thing. We started this podcast today starting by saying, like, winners ask better questions and they ask more of them. Well, guess what? We need to do the same thing with our team members. We need to ask them better questions so that they feel like they're valued and they feel like we trust them to do the things and execute every single day. But you need to ask them. Well, hello there. Welcome everyone to the Advisors Edge podcast. I'm your host, Rob Jacoman, and I am so excited and honored to have you guys join us today. I'm with my amazing co-host, Chad Ramberg. How you doing, Chad?
Great, Rob. Thank you. I'm excited to be here too. It's going to be a good day.
It's going to be awesome. So, hey, listen, what we want to do is the whole reason why we started this show in the first place was, Chad and I got together and we started thinking about, like, we just want to make a difference in the world. We want to make a difference especially in the financial advisory and financial services world. I think there's a real opportunity for someone like with us to get together and share tips, tools, strategies, things that are working, and share real stories. One of the things that we talked about in our preparation, Chad, as you know, before the show, is some of the things that we like and don't like about podcasts. And one of the things that I think I love the most about some of these podcasts, and it's what we want to kind of weave into our theme and our shows, is telling real stories, real stories of things that are going on inside of our business, some of the things the failures, the things that aren't working, the things that are working, and just, and then there's some inspiration. There's some real inspiring things that are happening, and we just want to be real. We want to be authentic, and we want to basically just give you enormous value so that you can take things that you learn, or we bring on special guests who are movers and shakers in the industry, and they share their stories, they share tips, they share tools and strategies to help you be better. And that is our mission, and that is our purpose, and just the spirit of service. That is our mission of this show. Chad, do you have anything else that you wanted to add there?
That's right on. The thing that makes it really interesting for me is, so I used to be a financial advisor, and what I tell clients is, I'm not anymore. Obviously, I'm not as good as you are. Okay. But that little bit of time that, which is about almost 2 years that I was working on being an advisor, hitting the streets, trying to connect with people, help them do better in their financial lives. I learned how hard it is. It can be very challenging every day to get up, especially if you think you've got a win on the cusp and then all of a sudden it falls apart. That's life. That's what happens. So it elevated my respect. And one of the goals of my part in being with you today, Rob, and doing this podcast is to help bring that encouragement. We have a unique perspective of the financial services market because we're talking with advisors across the country every day, as are you. And so I think that hopefully will make this fun. And I'm excited to see, the guests that we have on, the points that we bring up. And I hope that we also have the community that listens to us gives us feedback on what they would like to hear. Yep. If it's a guest, if it's a subject, whatever it is, maybe they hear a little tidbit in one of them. They're like, ooh, please expand on that. We would love that feedback.
Yeah, totally agree. And, one of the things we want to do is we want to bring in some real life stories, things that are going on and things that we're seeing in the industry, but also anything related to risk management and insurance and compliance and security and the things that are keeping you guys up at night. For me, that's my passion is not only wanting to be inspirational and share a good message and to share the good word, but also what's working, what's going to help you elevate your business to a whole new level, and how can we be of value to you and sharing marketing tips, sales strategies, how to go after a specific niche in the marketplace and really dominate that market. That's obviously my area of passion and expertise. But all those things kind of bottled up into one thing that we can distill to you every single time we do an episode, and just sharing enormous value. That's really all our mission. And that's a great transition into what we talked about today. We
Yeah.
are always going to be having these hot topics. And the hot topic today is, and I shared this with you in the beginning, and we're just going to kind of riff on this, is we talked about winners win. You know, it sounds cliche, but you guys actually, the cool thing is, obviously we work together and you guys shared, we always start this is the cool thing. And I want to share this with everybody. And I encourage everyone to do this because it's been so transformational for us. We made an agreement with all of us as a team. We said, listen, we're going to start every call with wins, and we're going to focus on the wins, whether they're big, small, or anything in between. It doesn't matter to us. We share our wins because we want to set the tone for the call, not only to be intentional and we want to be mission oriented, but setting the stage early as far as a win helps us all get inspired and build some momentum, basically set the tone for the rest of the call. So Chad, this was so cool because yesterday I was surprised, right? So I was surprised. I was like, it was one of the biggest wins you guys had. And I just was overcome with just a sense of joy in hearing how Alex on your team had described how everything went down, because I asked him a question. I said, just share with us, like, that's an awesome win, but share with us what led to you winning, because winners win. Tell us how you did it and just kind of go through the steps. And I thought that was it was just such a cool way of unpacking that situation, because he shared the win, and then he shared, this is how I did it. And we actually want to share that with you guys today, because it was a real defining moment for you guys in your business too. And I think it also, with these wins, really builds confidence and really builds belief of everyone who's on that call, because they're all kind of benefiting and hearing it. So Chad, share a little bit about that, because I thought it was such a cool moment yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, our theme today is celebrating wins, right? Mm-hmm. So we're just going to relive a little bit of that. So one thing to know about the work that we do here at Box Professional, the average client that we work with, their premium that they're paying is somewhere between $6,000 and $10,000 a year. You know, just give you that's the typical. So when we talk about the work we're doing, you know, in fishing metaphors, in prospecting and stuff, is something you hear all the time. Yeah, in our world and prospecting, we talk about fish analogies a lot. So what we have is the typical client premium is somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. That's the average, right? So I like to think of it, we're salmon fishing all the time. Well, this week we landed what I would call a tuna, a good size firm. So the average RIA out there is, 300 million, 3 to 500 million. That's the average, which doesn't say a whole lot. So we landed a $6 billion firm, which takes in at 10x as that average premium. And so it was a huge win for our team member.
That's a B, not an M. It's a B, 6 billion.
Yes.
So everybody knows, like, that's a pretty big number.
Yeah, and that's assets under management. And in financial services, they we drop 6 zeros off in everything, but when you add a few more zeros on, it makes it fun. It's exciting. It's fun for the team member. It's fun for the teams to hear, and then I would love to hear, Rob, you really enjoyed the explanation from Alex of what was helpful, what was useful. So what was your perception of how that experience went for him as he went through that?
Yeah, I think this is a great lesson for everybody. And it's something that gets me fired up, because I always want to know, I don't know about you guys, but like, even when I go into a really nice neighborhood, I always wonder, maybe it's just because I'm going in on a run or power walk or something. And I go in these nice neighborhoods, and I mean, I'm very blessed. I live in a nice neighborhood too, but then there's like those really nice, like those big neighborhoods. And I sometimes wonder, I go, man, I wonder what that guy does. Or, hey, I wonder what they do. Right.
There are clients, because that's who it is.
I'm enamored with that idea of, like, I wonder what they do to, just to be so successful and to have what they have. And not that I'm so tied into that, but I'm like, that's just something that's interesting for me. I always want to know, I wonder what business they're in. So when Alex shared that story, I was like thinking to myself, the whole time I'm thinking, great, man, that's a great win. But how did you do it? Right? What was different about that situation? And I think this is great. This applies to any business. This applies to whether you're a financial advisor, you're selling life insurance, you're selling anything. It doesn't matter what you're selling. The whole thing is, it boils down to what's the formula? What's the secret to success? And I think the secret to success in our industry, especially, is it all boils down to relationship and trust. And how you get there is part of the journey and the value that you deliver along the way. What I got from Alex sharing that story yesterday was, as we are honed in, and that's the beauty about what you guys, and this is something that I preach, go after a specific industry niche, put your stake in the ground and say, I'm going to make a commitment to dominate this market and serve at the highest level possible that I can and master this industry. You guys have done that very well. So you branded yourself, you positioned yourself, your personal and your company brand, to be the experts in the RIA industry. That was step number one, because I think without that, you don't even get a seat at the table with these guys.
Right.
Because I know,
right.
by the way, I know who you, because I have a relationship with one of the partners there at that firm. So I know what it's like. You wouldn't even got a seat at the table if you guys weren't experts, number one, and established yourself and your authority. That, just by doing that, you start to build what I call the steps, the trust. You start the engine running, and it's like every step along the way, you're building more and more trust. You're putting that in your bank. You're making a deposit. I call it the trust deposit. You're making that deposit, and as you are building that relationship and you're continuing to build trust, you're adding value to that relationship, it just becomes so much easier, and it's effortless. It's almost like it's effortless. You are now putting them in a position where there's no real decision to be made. It's just natural. It just happens. And you get to the point where you're like, I'm ready to, hey, Alex, what's the next step? We're ready to go.
Yeah.
And
what do you see as some of those, because you talked about some of those things that Alex was adding in as he was going through the process. And it was a 6-month process for this client, which is incredibly fast for us. But tell me, what did you see as some of those valuable steps as Alex went along the way?
Think about this. You apply this to any professional services business, right? So if you're in financial services, you're in insurance, we have a very similar business model, right? We have to first get our hands on data and information. Okay. So that's the step number one, is as you're building the trust, now the prospect trusts you enough to say, okay, you know what do you guys need from us? What kind of information? And I think when you have the right information and when you have data, it becomes really powerful, because then you can start to see what areas you can start to uncover, areas where there's problems, there's challenges, there's holes that you can poke into things like, hey, you know what, I'm noticing this, and this is a problem. This is an exposure in your business that I don't even know if you knew about it or your broker knew about it. But I'll tell you what was, I think, the big difference maker and what really impressed me about Alex. And this is a great lesson for everybody. I work with Alex, and he's doing an amazing job. And he's taking a lot of the things that I'm sharing with him over my wisdom over the years. Here's one thing that he did that I don't know if you really realize it, Chad, but he used the power question at the very beginning of establishing a relationship. And he said, he did what I call forward pacing, which is you're getting the prospect to kind of forward pace and imagine doing business with you, and imagining what it's like to have a partner who has your best interest in mind. And Alex did that. He said, who I was working with, here's the question I asked her. I said, hey, I want you to imagine 3 years from today, and imagine like we're working together, projecting out 3 years from today. What would have had to happen in order for you to feel like this has been a successful relationship and a partnership? And then he allowed the prospect to share what, in her view, that looked like. And usually what I tell the guys I'm coaching is, the first thing that comes out of the first two things that come out of a prospect's mouth, like you shut up and you don't say a word. There might be a really uncomfortable silence, but don't say a word. Just stay silent and let that prospect think and just kind of process what they're about to say. And the first two things that come out of their mouth usually are something they want to solve a problem they want to solve,
Yep.
or an aspirational goal. And I think when you are able to capture that, that is where the gold is. Then you use that to your advantage. And I think that's where it all started, Chad. I mean, I really believe that by asking the right questions, here's what winners do. Winners learn how to ask better questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
During the sales process. And if you're able to like just keep your mouth shut for 80% of the call and just focus that 20% on asking better questions, guess what? You're going to get better answers. And I think that's the lesson to be learned here in all this, Chad.
Well, and what a beautiful question, because it's heartfelt, it's direct. You're not trying to hide anything. And in fact, when they can be open and honest with you about it, which they probably will be, they're telling you exactly what they need and want from you,
100%.
which is just a beautiful thing. To pull back the curtain a little bit more, which was really fun, was so we're preaching every day. Our clients are fiduciaries. We need to treat them as they're going to treat clients and everything like that. And it gets really challenging. And when you're doing that and you're working with these clients that is a larger one on average than he may typically be talking with, it becomes the sort of situation where you really want that. You're out there throwing that line out there, and you're like, okay, I got one here. I'm gonna, and we can overwork it almost,
Yeah.
And it was really the funny thing. The super great thing about the team is he came to me a couple of times and he says, you know what, I think this is a great opportunity. I think we're a good fit for them and vice versa. And I said, that's great. And he was getting, I excited about it. Like, ooh, I want to call. And I said, wait, hold back a little bit, one step at a time. And so we would take and talk about that patience that we're going to have and let the client set the pace, be there, be ready. But that patience was what I was really impressed, because I've been there where I'm just so excited. In fact, when I first started out in any sort of a sales position, that was my biggest problem. I'd over talk it. And he did just a fantastic job. So it's so fun to have this win where it's a true win, but it's also a win in seeing the development of a team member growing and improving, not only in the process of the questions we ask, but the service level of being able to support a client like he's going to be able to do here.
Yeah, it's a great, that's actually a great point. Point number 2 is, so we've talked about really 2 things about winners, and winners ask better questions. And then winners, based on what you just said, winners are patient. So my question, Chad, is how, in a world where we're looking to like build our business and scale, and we have this hustle culture, and I know it's probably not as pervasive in the financial services world, and or it could be, I don't really know, but you know way better than I do in that like you have a view on the front lines. I know what I know because I've been in this industry for so long. I don't necessarily know what it's like. Is there a hustle culture inside of the financial services world? And how do you develop patience? I think that's a skill set that is so unique that if you can develop patience, because here's the thing, I think prospects feel when you have that, when you want the sale too much. I call it the desperation call. It's like, it's kind of like dating. It's like when you're dating, it's been years since that, in my case. But when you think about the dating, it's like, oh man, I just went on this awesome date with this girl and she's so attractive and she's so awesome. And then you're kind of thinking to yourself, all right, do I call her tomorrow? Right. But then if I do I feel too desperate? Should I wait 3 days or 5 days? There's all these like crazy things going in our minds. And we're thinking to ourselves, like, what's the perfect cadence for dating? And it's the same thing in sales, I think. I think in sales and growing your business, if you think about the cadence and what it takes to develop patience, and I think it's a real skill set, Chad. And I don't know what's your take on how to develop that skill and that habit of patience?
Yeah, so there's 2 questions you had there. In the financial services world, how much of a hustle culture is there? And that's an interesting aspect of the question, because I see a whole range of it, because financial services is a huge subset. I mean, we're focused right now today on RIAs and serving them well. In the RIA space, less of a hustle culture because you have the financial planning and the really analytical side of it. There's lots of really good practitioners out there that's built their business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have those that, it's just in the life health sales side of it, it's just really challenging. There is an analytical side of that that's hugely valuable, but it tends to be a little bit more hustle as you kind of look at that insurance side of it. But in either case, there's no question, especially those top level winners, is even if they're working hard, it's about filling the pipeline and then just having more at bats than it is about, just swinging as hard as you can and over anticipating stuff. I mean, early on, I lost clients because I was too anxious for it. And they can read that. Even if you can play cool hand Luke, they know that. They're smart. Our clients are super smart. Oh yeah.
There's such a thing. There is that law of attraction thing going on. I think it's the energy that you put out there, and people can feel the restless. I think it's the anticipation of getting the deal done, and you feel this sense of, gosh, can you just sign the bottom line, man? Like, can you just sign the contract? Can you sign the deal so I can wrap this up and put it on my, chalk up the win for the month, and I can get my commission. I think that happens in all of our minds, at a lot of times, and it happens to me too. I think to myself, that happened to me yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, I had such an amazing call, and I could think to myself, like, I cannot wait to work with these guys, but I have to be patient, and I have to sit back and make sure, like, not sit back in a passive way. I need to sit back and be more strategic about, okay, let me analyze the call that we had yesterday. And that's, by the way, that's why all the cool things that we use with technology, I'm using Fathom, and I'm not getting paid by Fathom. I just record every sales call or every meeting that I have, so that I can leverage AI to give me kind of an assessment of, okay, how could I make this better? How could I win? How could I set myself to win even more by really understanding what are the needs, what are the challenges, what are the things that they told me were most important for them to get to where they want to go. And I think that's
you're listening.
Great lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. You're listening.
Winners.
Yeah. So the second part of your question, which I do want to kind of touch on a little bit, because you were saying, well, what do you guys do to help teach that patience? Because I agree with you. I never thought of it really as a skill set, but it is a skill set, and it's a practice thing. Because if we, and the way I'm a process guy, this about me. Right. Mm-hmm. So what we really do is we built into our system a understanding that we need to. So look, it's valuable for us to wait sometimes. And here's where I'm going to say something really goofy, and we may have future podcasts on this. But what we want to do is build a system that keeps us on track. So we have that good cadence that you talk about. So we have a full pipeline. We have a cadence that we know helps keep that pipeline full. And then what we're doing is the system that we use is it's Kaizen. It's from Toyota Production System. There's lots of books out there on it, but applying that to professional service as well actually allows us to take a deep breath and say, okay, we can focus on the quality of the call because we know we've got the cadence, or in our case, the tact time, where we've done those day by day, hour by hour activities that we know is going to lead to that long-term success. And as you're doing this practice over time, you can know that you can take a deep breath, and you don't have to be so excited about, I've got to win this one, because you don't need to. You can trust the process, and it's your coat of armor that you can say, okay, I'm just going to work through this process, and we're going to find who is ready, and we're going to be ready, and we're going to serve them really, really well. So we've actually, every day we're practicing that system to get better at that, which adds on these things that are really almost intangible. It's hard to put your mind around, but when we do it well, you can start to see the results.
Yeah. You know what? We're going to do a whole episode on, we're going to lift open the hood on your process and how you guys do it, and integrating Kaizen and how you've set up your systems, kind of a systems-oriented, process-oriented business that is really meant to serve you and your lifestyle and your team, so that you can eliminate a lot of the inefficiencies and just have something that just runs and functions and allows you guys to continue to improve and to scale. And I think it's a fascinating area, and I cannot wait to do an episode on that. But
well, what's exciting is it gives us the ability to really sit here and focus on things like a podcast where we get to celebrate wins, right?
I love it. I love it. I would say the last thing, winners, here's an interesting thing we kind of segued into yesterday was what I thought was kind of cool is we went from celebrating the win to then talking about metrics, right? Let's talk about sales cadence, right? And what does an ideal sales cadence look like in terms of being and here was the point. The point was not to push anybody or push any buttons or call someone out like you're not doing this or that wasn't the point. The point of that exercise we went through is, and I'll just share it with everybody. So Chad had me kind of prepare what would an ideal sales cadence look like? And what do I mean by sales cadence is what can you do consistently every single day, knowing what your outcome is that you're looking for. So if I'm shooting for this one thing and I'm like you said something awesome. You're trusting in the process. When you have a system and you can trust in the process, all you have to do is focus on executing every single day. And that process in and of itself takes care of the result and the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
What we look at is kind of like inputs equals outputs. So what we did yesterday was with everybody on the team, we said, okay, what does an ideal sales cadence look like every single day? If you execute this thing in this way, you're going to get X result. And then you shared with me something really cool this morning. And you're like, sometimes you just have to make adjustments and start small and start where you are and say, okay, maybe I'm going to do 5 outreaches a day, not 20, not 100, like the hustle culture talk, all talks about, you got to do back in the day when we first started, and I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah. We've been there.
I'm not even going to date myself here and just say like, getting handed a Yellow Pages book and just start dialing for dollars. But that was the old school mentality. But I really believe, and I said this on the call yesterday, and I think this might have some value. Sometimes there's more value in doing less, but make it higher quality. So higher quality outreach, where maybe you're doing a personalized Loom video to a prospect, or maybe you're personalizing your email message, or you're out, maybe your cold call. If you're doing cold calls, awesome. But make sure that you're really doing some homework on that person before you call, so that it can be a higher quality interaction. And I think that was the point yesterday that I really took home is, hey, we designed a sales cadence. How can we make adjustments so that it becomes more easily executed on, if that makes any sense to everybody? So instead of doing 20, like I think the initial number I had on there was 20. And you're like,
well, here's the
back to maybe 5 or 10.
Well, the implicit thing, the huge leadership point of that. So we're having all levels probably listening to us of folks out there, right? Cool leadership thing that ended up happening with that is it allowed, you came with the cadence and the process, and then the team member gets to decide, okay, for me, this is where I'm at today. Because really what we want to do is we want to lead our team to be able to grow and develop so they can achieve their full potential. And that was the fantastic thing about the way you brought it and the way we pivoted in the moment to be able to dial it in. And who at that point, we're kind of helping the conversation along, but it's the individual that's bringing up, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm ready to go. And then we can help grow from there, which was so awesome. I was really glad you were there with us, and it was a lot of fun.
It was cool. And here's the thing, just for some tips for everybody, I think we're very intentional in how we have our meetings. So we want to make sure we know, okay, before we get started, here's what we're going to talk about. Obviously, we start off with the wins. Winners win, and we want to share. I think that's another good point. And I kind of want to end it with this, Chad, and I want you to have the last word. When we're talking about winners and we're talking about wins, as you know, you have some team members on those calls, and while you have some that are in a sales role, you have others who are more of an operational systems role. By the way, we should be celebrating everyone's wins. And that's why I said that I went over to Ryan. I was like, dude, I'm not leaving you out of this, man. You share your wins too. You might have said, hey, man, I created the most awesome automation yesterday, and I'm so proud about it. And it's like, well, dude, that's a win. Like, share it. Share that win with everybody, because like, it's not just salespeople who are winning. And here's the lesson. You have team members on your team who are all contributing in some way based on their role and their mission and their purpose. That's for the higher purpose of the organization. They're contributing a piece to that value proposition that you have internally. Mm-hmm. We need to celebrate their wins too. We need to celebrate. And here's the thing. We started this podcast today starting by saying, like, winners ask better questions and they ask more of them. Well, guess what? We need to do the same thing with our team members. We need to ask them better questions so that they feel like they're valued and they feel like we trust them to do the things that and execute every single day. But you need to ask them, hey, Ryan, hey, Jaden, what wins did you have this week or today that you want that we can celebrate? And I don't care how big. My coach, by the way, I have a coach too.
Yep.
I have a coach who says they start off the calls. Every single coaching call starts off with, I have group calls and individual calls. We always start off with, guys, share your wins. And he makes it a point to say, I don't care if it's a big, like you landed a whale or a new client, or you did something to move your business in the right direction. That's a win. So
that's right. We even had a intern that had a win. We had a great call with a company that's helping us look at building an AI tool, right? So there's the operational wins, there's the sales wins, there's the development wins. They're all over the place.
Yeah. There are next couple episodes, guys, just as we're kind of wrapping up here today. Some of the episodes we're going to cover, we're going to talk about AI, and we're going to talk about what AI is doing to really transform. I have a great story to share with you guys, and I can't wait to share it because I had some I don't want to say there's always, you have these platforms like X and Twitter, what used to be Twitter. I find there's some very interesting people and interesting conversations that don't make me very motivated to continue using that platform necessarily. But I had a really interesting, we'll save this for the next episode, had a really interesting interaction with an agency owner who was kind of like making fun. I know what he was doing. He was trying to make fun of me for sharing. Guys, just so everybody knows, I do intensive research and development and trying to make the industries that we all work in better by leveraging AI tools and strategies. And just so you know, it's not going anywhere. So you have to learn it. I don't care if you use it, but you have to learn it because your team members are using it every single day. You don't know it always. But this guy was like busting on me about sharing, well, when are you going to make this AI tool that's just going to take over my whole insurance business? And he was kind of being a smart aleck about it. Yeah. But I was like, that just told me that person's not open to learning about all the things that are going on inside of the industry. Like right now, he has no idea the stuff that we're working on behind the scenes. He has no idea about any of this stuff but you know why? Because he didn't ask the right question. He didn't ask me. If he was smart, he would have said, hey, Rob, I really, really want to know. It sounds like you know a lot about AI and how this fits in with the insurance industry and financial services. I would love to learn more from you. What are you seeing in the marketplace? How are others using and leveraging AI to make their businesses better? That would have been a better question. And instead of him, I know what he was doing. He was busting on me because he had fear. He has fear because he doesn't know or understand the industry or doesn't really know and understand how AI fits in all this. And he still thinks it's probably a hoax. But I can't wait to share that story. I know it was a long-winded one, but it's going to be awesome. And then the last thing, Chad, I can't wait to hear more about how you guys are using Kaizen in your business. And I've actually witnessed it firsthand. I think it's absolutely unbelievable. And I can't wait for you to share all that with everybody. And I think there's so much value in building those systems and processes to make your business better and to make your team members better too. So Chad, you have the last word today as we're wrapping up this episode.
Well, thank you. The last word is going to be this. The theme today was all about winning and celebrating our wins. One of the values that we have here is have a little fun. And that's a great way to have a little fun, is celebrate those wins. So I'm looking forward to what that next theme is. And, you're incredibly grateful. We're a team here. Our goal is to help encourage those around us, and we'll be peppering in as we go through. It is super exciting. The things that are in development today, I guess you could say I'm a tech optimist. We got to be cautious and careful. The risk manager in me says, hey, be careful about some of this stuff. But I'm really optimistic about the things we can do. And these are going to be coming up with guests that we have, with the discussions. Really looking forward to our time together, Rob. And hopefully we're going to be opening that window for those that choose to listen, and giving a little bit of peek behind the curtain, and just be upfront and honest. And we'll share our mistakes, because certainly we're not perfect. And how do we work through those? In fact, here's the little tidbit for you for today. Kaizen is really about finding and looking for that biggest problem. So we're really, just like when you're working for a client, you can add the most value for the client when you can help them with a problem they have. Internally, we're looking, what's that biggest problem? If we can eliminate that for our client's benefit, it's a huge win. And usually there's such small little steps along the way that once it comes through, it looks like magic, but it's all those little steps that get us there, which is so much fun.
Love it. Guys, listen, if you found value in our message and what we're sharing with you today, we encourage you. We'd love for you to, join us every episode, and definitely click on the like button and subscribe to our podcast, and, continue on this journey with us. And by the way, we're open. We're not professional podcasters. We have the hearts of teachers, hearts of servants. And that's all we want to do, is we want to deliver a great message for you. And if there's things that you're interested in, that you want to learn about, and guests that you want to have on this show, then, we are very open to that. And, we'll take your feedback, and again, we'll execute on those things and bring you our best every single week. And Chad, this has been awesome. I had so much fun, and let's just continue to keep doing what we do to give advisors the edge. I think that's
yes,
the whole
sir.
idea of our show, is to make sure we do everything we can to give you guys the edge. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you joining us. We're extremely grateful. We're honored, and can't wait to see you on the next episode. So take care.
Thank you.